It's a zany action, a crazy contraption, Burnham's in a mousetrap. Hello interwebs and welcome to my review of Star Trek Discovery, Season 2, Episode 10, The Red Angel. So I'm gonna be completely honest, after watching most episodes, I generally have an idea of like, I liked that or I didn't. And coming out of this one, I honestly don't know how I feel about it. There were some really good, strong moments, but then there was some stuff that like really felt weird and kind of fell flat for me. And then there were some things that I didn't mind, but I know a bunch of you out there are gonna have problems with, which is totally fine. And I kind of felt it as I was watching it, and I'm kind of like, I can buy it, but I know this is gonna bother somebody. I feel like, honestly, what's gonna happen is my overall enjoyment of this episode is really gonna be determined by how the season wraps out, because I feel like this episode was very similar to episode 3 of this season, the Klingon one, in that it's setting up a lot of pieces and does have a storyline in it, but a lot of it is just laying up the dominoes for the last half of the season, where like episode 3 was sort of laying up the dominoes for the middle part of the season. And so it kind of has a blah feel to it that's not bad, but not like stellar. And it kind of happens in serialized shows to a degree where you just have like moving pieces into place episodes. And that's kind of what's happening here. But again, there are important moments that we see here, clearly, especially the end, but also some character beats like Tyler and Burnham. Get a few beats with Culber and Stamets. I don't know. I really don't have like, normally I'm like, this was great, this was bad, and I don't have like a strong stance on it yet. You know, I have a lot of like minutia thoughts, and maybe I'll change my mind as I go through this review and sort of talk it out with all of you, but I can't say what I feel on it yet. But the first thing that I do want to get to, obviously, is the reveal of the Red Angel. But before I get to the minutia of my review, I just want to take a quick moment and ask all of you out there to please subscribe to my channel. I do reviews like this each and every week, and I do really cool analysis of geek culture and LGBTQ issues within geek culture on my channel with new videos every single Friday. On top of that, for those of you that don't know, I just started a new Patreon page. With the Patreon page, what I'm really hoping for is to really kind of build up the quality of these videos. I'm really proud of the work that I put into this, and I hope you guys are enjoying it out there, but I really think there's an opportunity for me to really bring this thing to the next level, especially with all the influx of new people. I'm so excited to have a bunch of new people joining me on my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I just really want to make something truly special with the work that I do here, and honestly, your help is greatly appreciated, even if it's just a small amount. So that link is down below, and please give what you can. Honestly, if you're just here to watch, I am perfectly happy to have you, and thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to go into my beat-by-beat breakdown of the episode like I usually do, but I think what we have to do is we really have to start with that reveal of the Red Angel at the end, that it is, in fact, spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched the episode yet, that the Red Angel is Burnham's mom, which I don't think anyone was thinking. I didn't see any theories on that whatsoever. And I have to say, at the top of the episode, when Tilly just comes in and sort of casually announces, like, Burnham, you're the Red Angel, and then it just quickly cuts to the theme song, I was like, that's a... If she is indeed the Red Angel, which I didn't think she was, I kind of figured there was going to be an ending twist to it, like there is at the end of this episode. So I kind of figured that was heading, because that was kind of like a lackluster, like, blah way to kind of reveal this big moment that we've been building to all season. But then again, I mean, Spock's ultimate reveal is just him kind of rambling in a cave, which, I mean, I've liked Spock so far this season, how they've used him, but that wasn't really the strongest introduction for him. So I could see them kind of like being like on the introduction, even if their eventual usage of the idea is solid. But I'm glad that they didn't go that route, especially because I know Burnham being the Red Angel would have pissed off a lot of people and annoyed a bunch more, kind of Mary suing her. But having it be her mom, and again, this goes into like, I'm going to have to see how it plays out, and I'll talk about how that connects to Leland and everything in a minute, but I think my major problem with it is it feels like it's limiting the universe. It still goes in this idea like Burnham's the most important person because it's still like in her family and sort of does feed into that Mary Sue idea, which, again, I don't necessarily agree that Michael Burnham's a Mary Sue, but she is kind of too important. But I'm going to table that a little bit here, because again, I kind of need to see where they go with this. If they go with it in an interesting direction, I'm willing to forgive that element of it. So I can't really judge that yet. Next episode will probably be the real tell of that. No, what really bothers me about it being her mom, at least just initially, is it just makes the universe feel small. Like a lot of the theories out there, had these like big expanding ideas, like maybe it was Zora, maybe it was all these other things. And we knew it had to be someone that related to something on Discovery, obviously. I mean, it would have felt kind of lackluster if it didn't too. It would have been like a weird, there would have been no real payoff. It was just some random person. But having it be Burnham's mom just feels like the universe is somehow smaller. Like Star Trek was always about like really big connections, and having it just be her mom is somewhat simplifying everything. And not to say that Star Trek hasn't done that before. I mean, Sybok is a clear example of that. And there's been like a few other things, where it's just like, it turns out to be my long lost brother. I mean, like lore in TNG. I mean, that's just the storytelling thing in general that a lot of shows do. But I don't know, I kind of always liked like the Lord of the Rings-esque feel to Star Trek in a way where it just really felt like this big expansive universe. That was what really caught me. And so having it be her mom just feels somewhat like limiting. But again, it's hard to judge it right now, and I know a lot of people are going to have thoughts on it in the comments, so I really want to hear your thoughts. But I'm going to have to see how this goes. I really don't have like a solid this sucks or this is great just yet. It could be interesting and could be used interestingly. Gut feeling on it is it's like limiting to the universe, where it could have really opened things up. It kind of contracted it a little bit. But it's not as bad as Burnham being the Red Angel, which would have felt obvious. So I give them credit for that. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I'm kind of on the fence, and we'll have to see where it goes from here. Having it be her mom could have some really interesting payoffs. There are some really interesting avenues that could go down. There could be some really dumb and contrived ways that could go down too. So really it's a super risky move. Like, for example, last season I loved the reveal of Lorca being from the universe. I thought that actually worked really well. But the payoff of that, where he just became like a mustache twirly villain, instead of like he kind of lost all of his nuance at the end there, really kind of bothered me. The setup was wonderful. The payoff, like the reveal was good, but then the actual like seeing that play out didn't really work for me. So they're kind of doing it again here, and I'm cautiously optimistic. So I had to start there, and I know that's going to kind of be the biggest point of discussion for everybody, as it deservedly should be. But I do want to kind of dig into some other stuff this episode, because like I said, there was kind of a mixed bag here. I liked a lot of moments, and I disliked a lot of other ones. So let's just dive right in. Start off with Ariam's funeral. I really liked this sequence quite a bit. It had echoes of Star Trek II, when Tilly calls her Ariam her friend. That really felt like he was the most human bit from Star Trek II, which always brings a tear to my eye, especially after the death of Leonard Nimoy. So that was a good like sort of callback, but not sort of overtly like beating over the head like, look, it's an homage, but it kind of, you could see echoes of it. It was well done, I thought, in that sense. And I liked everyone's speeches. I thought there was some really good, strong speeches. I liked Detmer saying, oh, she made me feel like my augment didn't change who I was, it just made me new. Which I kind of liked as sort of an echo of a lot of themes going on this season, but most directly with Culber. Sort of him feeling like, I'm new and different, but am I wrong or anything like that. So I kind of liked how Detmer's got a little bit of a character moment there, but it also informed a lot of themes and other characters as well. So good little beat there, wonderfully done, wonderfully written. And then also I really loved Burnham's line, we all joined Starfleet to reach for the stars or reach for the best in ourselves, but really it's about reaching for each other. There's nothing more Star Trek than that. I think if there's a line that just encapsulates what Star Trek means to me, it's that line. We're reaching for the stars, we're reaching for the best in ourselves, but ultimately we're reaching for each other. Star Trek has always been about looking at each other and looking at diversity and infinite diversity and infinite combinations, and just trying to find how we relate to each other and find each other. Great line, great encapsulation of just Star Trek ethos in general. And then Saru's song was super sweet. I was like, oh. It gave us a bit more of Saru's culture, which I really liked. And it was just like a really beautiful sound. Whoever wrote that song, really beautiful. I doubt it was actually Doug Jones singing. I would have liked to I don't think we even cut to Saru going, oh, da, da. because it clearly wasn't Doug Jones's voice, but a very sweet song nonetheless. The only question I had was like, this is a great funeral for like a B character. Did Culber ever get this last season? I know they were in the Mirror Universe and kind of like, we have to do shit, but it's kind of like, damn, Culber got the short shrift last season with his death, which, you know, problematic with the bury your gays trope, but whatever, it's fine. And then we got Tyler and Burnham in the turbo lift, where, you know, there's some really great subtext in Tyler's line. I wish it had played out differently. Clearly talking about him and Burnham when they were actually talking about like him and Pike. Kind of, I like this sort of buildup of, for Burnham, Tyler's always on the wrong side of things. You know, he was on the wrong side of things as a Klingon. He's on the wrong side of things being with Section 31, but she knows that he does care for her. So I really liked that conflict. It felt natural. It felt right. It felt like it came out of true character of both of them. They both have this sort of flaw in them that kind of leads these situations to keep recurring. You know, it just felt natural to those characters. Just really well done. Just the whole conflict between them this episode, I thought really, really worked for me and kind of really sold me on their relationship in a way that last season never really did. Last season, their relationship kind of felt a little bit rushed. It wasn't terrible, but it just felt too fast, which was always kind of a problem with that season of Discovery in general. And so I like how they're taking their time here and really kind of earned it by getting it to the end there, because I really kind of felt that worked for me when they finally made up and kissed at the end. And I guess I'll analyze that scene too right now. Really great scene between Tyler and Burnham. Her kind of apologizing to him because after, you know, she learns about Leland, she goes right at him and attacks him. And I liked him saying, like, you know, you put your anger where you knew it was safe. Kind of forgiving her a little bit too easily for kind of being mildly inappropriately abusive towards him. You know, I think that's, you know, people who really care about that is something that happens. I mean, I've done it. My partner's done it to me. It happens. Kind of, you know, release anger where it doesn't necessarily deserve to be, but where you kind of feel comfortable expressing that. And then that moment where Burnham says, "I'm so scared," really hit me. Really well done, acted moment there. And that's a moment that I really like. That whole bit with Tyler and Burnham just really worked for me, especially Sonequa Martin Green's acting in that scene, and Shazad Latif acting as well. Both really hammered home and kind of made me tear up when Burnham said, "I'm so scared." That read real, it felt real, and it really played up the stakes of the end set piece of Burnham dying in a way that really kind of humanized it. It didn't feel like this big ethereal, like, oh, we're going to kill her, or made it feel like, oh, she is actually scared, and really kind of hammered home the stakes of that end bit. And so that worked really well and kind of led into that end sequence that worked really well for me. I liked the Pike meeting. I thought that was good. I finally get to see like a round table meeting of Pike and his main officers. I haven't really seen that in a while. We've seen other people have meetings, but Pike around that table has not happened yet to my remembrance. So I kind of like that beat. Felt very TNG to me. And TOS as well. TOS had a few of those scenes. And I think every series kind of had those scenes. Voyager had a shit ton of them. And then we got the dead drop that, like, Michael as the Red Angel felt too easy, and I kind of figured that wasn't, I hope that wasn't where they were going, because that was just like, well, oh yeah, you're the Red Angel, let's just drop that in dialogue instead of showing it to you. So I'm glad that's not how it turned out. Played out much better than that, thank God. Though I know as soon as that happened, 100 people groaned at the TV. Someone went, ah! So I know people out there were probably instantly upset. I know it. I see you. Oh, and then we had that cool FX shot of Disco. Kind of got to see it like really up close and personal. I liked that bit. And then we sort of get everyone talking about Burnham being the Red Angel in the sort of doctor's office. They really need more doctors than Dr. Culber. It's just sort of like, why would it be Culber doing that examination? It just felt too like, oh, we don't want to hire that guest star again, so we'll just have Culber do it. All right. And just like, I really would have preferred the guest star to be there, but whatever. What you gonna do? Save the monies. I liked Spock and Burnham's sort of bickering again as kids there. You know, Spock saying, you know, it fits her emotional profile precisely, kind of re-driving home that moment of sort of her character flaw that we discussed last episode. And I liked Pike's kind of smirk at it. These kids felt very daddish. Like they have this Pike coming off as a very like dad figure. It plays well. So then we get Section 31 comes here. I didn't really like this scene because there was a lot of like telling Section 31's like, oh, we created the Red Angel because the Klingons were making time travel. And we found that like technological leaps in our history had come from time travel, which I wonder if that's a reference to First Contact, Star Trek First Contact, that, you know, that was a technological leap that involved time travel. So I'm curious if they're referring to that or if there's going to be sort of other events that they're going to refer to this season. But my guess is, at least in part, refers to First Contact, which would be kind of cool if that somehow ties into things. That they actually bring First Contact up in this series and that it actually has an impact. I would really like that. And then would actually even tie into Enterprise, because they encountered the Borg because of First Contact, and that's kind of how they learned about time travel. Could have been interesting there. But it was a lot of like telling, not showing with that. Then we got a good scene between Georgiou and Burnham. I really like that bit there where, you know, Burnham calls her Philippa at one moment and says, hey, you can earn my trust by doing this. I really feel like Georgiou is manipulating everything. Like, I do think she cares for Burnham, but she is manipulating everything. She knew that Burnham was going to get pissed off at Leland. I think she has every little piece chess matched out here. And I think she does care for Burnham. That's clear at the end of the episode when she's trying to save her. But I do think she's very manipulative in everything she's doing. Because of her line, you know, I feel like the best intentions, even with the best intentions, we do the harm to the people that we most care about. Again, calling out Burnham's character flaw in an interesting way, but making it about someone else. I like the subtext and sort of the thematic pull through there, but it really kind of shows how well Georgiou understands Burnham and knows how well to manipulate her. So I really kind of hope that pays off. I don't buy Georgiou's complete sincerity throughout this whole episode, besides like the caring for Burnham. Okay, so then we get a scene that I have to talk about, the LGBT context of it. The scene between Georgiou, Culber, Tilly, and Stamets. So initially, I started off really, really liking the scene, and I do generally. Like, I loved Georgiou's kind of like playing up Stamets' uncomfortability and like really like making him feel comfortable. Very felt like a good power move by Georgiou. Oh, she just knows how to push everyone's buttons and just knows how to make herself the most powerful person in the room, whether it's using her sexuality or just her dominance or just, you know, trying to be manipulative. She's just always the one in control in every situation. And I really liked that bit. And then like Culber coming in, I really kind of liked that as well. And looking super freaking suave. Like, what was Culber wearing? It was like that black suit. I was like, you look nice there, Wilson Cruz. I mean, he always looks nice, but he's really got the style going on. So that scene was really great. I liked sort of all their interplay there and Tilly kind of being like, what happened there? However, there is one bit that I rubs me the wrong way. And I'm not going to dive too into it just because I've already made a video on it, which I'll link up here and down below. It's this idea of the promiscuous evil bisexual. That, you know, in our universe where their characters are good, they have a certain binary identified sexuality, typically straight, but in this case gay. But then when they become evil, then there's somehow their sexuality changes and everyone's just much more promiscuous. And as a bisexual person myself, I don't want to go off on a huge representation rant here, but it bears some mention, especially because I've talked about it before. But it just creates this idea that being bisexual, or being pansexual in this case, which kind of equate to the same thing, at least in the terms that they mean in the show, kind of equates to saying like, oh, being bisexual, being pansexual means you're promiscuous. Means you like to have sex with a lot of people. You know, and this is something that Star Trek's done before. We've like seen Deep Space Nine characters who were in the universe bisexual but were straight in our universe. It just creates this implication that bisexuality is promiscuous and that also it's coded as evil. And I get that social mores in that universe would be less. I don't think they're trying to say like all bisexual people are evil, but really, the only examples of bisexuality we have in the Star Trek universe, off the top of my head, are evil characters, or characters from an evil universe, at the very least. And so that just rubs me the wrong way, because it just creates this implication. And I'm kind of disappointed that that's the way they're going with it. That like, oh, there's your pansexual representation. It's evil people, and it was a character that was also killed off last season. So, that being said, I'm going to kind of stop that conversation right now. Not because I don't want to talk about it, but because I already have. Like I said, check out the video above, or in the links below, because I talk about in that video Star Trek's issue and problem with bisexuality in general. All right, so then we get the scene that I like to call Everyone Confronts Leland scene. I didn't really love this scene. I liked it at first where Saru kind of like stands up to Leland and is like, I got your number. And I was like, yeah, Saru's got a backbone. I love it. It's awesome. It's building into his character. And then Burnham comes in and kind of does the exact same thing. And like Saru leaves and then she stands up to him and says, you're hiding something. Now tell me. It felt repetitive. Like, I like that you're giving that, like, I get what it says about Saru, but then just to kind of replay the same beat with a different character and have a different payoff, I guess you can kind of say that I guess Leland felt guilt. It kind of shows that Leland felt guilt towards Burnham, and he was being much more open towards Burnham as opposed to Saru, where he's much more guarded. So I guess it kind of says that. I mean, it's not purposeless, but I don't know, it just felt like kind of weird that you just rotate characters and then have a very similar beat right in the same scene. It's not the worst thing, it just felt a bit repetitive and on the nose, and felt like you could have handled it a bit better. Like maybe Burnham and Saru confront him at the same time, and they kind of played that beat together, but then Leland's like, I'm not telling you, Saru, but I will tell her, so Saru leave, and Saru has to kind of go. That would have played a little bit better for me, instead of just kind of repeating the same beat twice, and with a different payoffs, if you just sort of combine the two and just had different payoffs in character. So yeah, that didn't completely work for me. And then we learned that this whole backstory with Burnham's parents, that Leland had them investigating time travel that the Klingons were into, and maybe tying into First Contact, like I said before. He was the one that had Burnham's parents be where they were, and he's the one that actually got Burnham's parents killed, and Burnham wasn't at fault at all for her parents dying. Decent enough backstory. Again, kind of limits the universe like I talked before with like what the end reveal is, but also like the fact that Burnham's parents were the one also looking into time travel. So it's kind of like, though I guess it kind of makes it make a little bit more sense in terms of why it's small, because her parents were the ones working on it, but it still feels limiting and felt like it could have been done better. But I'm hesitant, again, I'm hesitant to judge it too hard because I need to see where it goes. So maybe it'll work out. I'm cautious. But then we get Burnham punching Leland on the nose, which I know is something that bothers a lot of people. I can instantly tell. So many people out there are going to be bothered by that, because they're going to do like the, oh look, she mutinied again, and you know she's a shitty officer and all that jazz. It doesn't bother me as much. I don't want to be too much of an apologist for it, because yeah, I can see that, but I can also see like clearly Leland has guilt about this, and so I feel like I could sense why he would let her off on punching him. Like he's like, you know, I deserved that. I wish we had gotten a scene with him that said that, where he sort of like talks to Georgiou or something about it. It's like, you let her know, and she's like, why'd you let her punch you on the nose? And he's like, well, I kind of deserved it. Just something to like prove that to me, but I can read it that way. But yeah, I know it's going to bother some people. It doesn't bother me too much, but again, it's kind of like, there's only so many mutinies you can allow before it really starts to grate on me. And if this is the last time they do that, sure. It's one of those, like, again, I can't judge it until seeing more. So yeah, it's like putting a pin in my feelings on it, because I really just got to see where things go, which is why this episode's so damn hard to review. Just going to talk about a quick couple other scenes, because this review's kind of going long. The one scene I did like is I really liked Spock and Burnham in the boxing room. That scene really worked well for me. It was finally a scene where the two of them connect and bond, and Spock forgives her. It felt real, it felt well done, it felt small and emotional, which is really kind of what I wanted from Discovery. I love these small character beats. When they do them, I think they really, really nail them more often than they don't nail them, especially when it's between main characters. I also liked the fact that Burnham admits to her flaw. Played well for me. I really, really liked that. Finally moving that relationship forward. It's not just going to stay in this rut of like they're bickering siblings, which I liked and enjoyed, but was starting to get a bit old. So I'm glad that they're kind of moving past it, and they kind of like are starting to relate to each other again. The next scene that I want to talk about is I really liked the Cornwall Culber scene. Really well done. I really like the callback to Cornwall being a therapist, and you know, this sort of idea of the only way to forge a new road is to walk it from Cornwall to Culber. Really kind of set up that interesting sort of set off for their relationship, where Culber's sort of trying to reach out to Stamets, and now Stamets is the one kind of pushing away. And when he tries to apologize later on in the episode, and Stamets kind of pushes back. So I like that sort of push and pull in the relationship. It feels real, it feels really well done, feels very true to the characters. And also I liked that idea of the only way to build a new road is to walk it. Also kind of ties into the theme of the Red Angel. The Red Angel's trying to create a new road to stop all sentient life in the galaxy from dying. So I kind of like that it sort of ties in thematically to the whole season arc going on here. Kind of even ties to like what they're trying to do with Discovery this season, as they're really trying to forge a new road after season 1. Really great thematic scene there. Just wonderfully well done. Felt rooted in character, but also rooted in theme, which is exactly what you should be doing when you're writing an episode. There's a couple other beats and things here and there that I really liked. Georgiou trying to save Burnham at the end there. We sort of get Burnham realizes, to kind of recap, Burnham and Spock realize that if they put Burnham's life in danger, the Red Angel is going to show up to try and save her life. So they need to let Burnham die, and that sort of really sets up some really great stakes. Like I said, they were small. It was just Burnham's life at hand, and then it really made me feel it with like Burnham saying, you know, I'm so scared, or that line right when she's strapped in the chair where she says to Spock, like, what if it doesn't work? And then also the moment where she talks to Tyler, and Tyler's like, Burnham, and Burnham says, I know, which kind of felt very Han Solo-y, like a nice callback to Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, and sort of like says where they're at in their relationship. They do love each other, and they're really admitting that now. Great work there. That whole final set piece was great. Her dying and choking those sounds she was making, the sound design, like of her up to her decision, then the quick silence, and then her breath, all that sound design was fantastic. Really, I did feel the tension in that scene. Even though I knew Burnham wasn't going to die, there was no way they're going to let her die. I did wonder if they were going to do like, oh, she's dead at the end of the episode and the angel didn't come. And I would have actually thought that would have been an interesting cliffhanger. Like, oh shit, Burnham's dead. And we know she's coming back, but how? Really, for something that we knew what was eventually kind of going to happen, that Burnham wasn't going to die at the very least, really played it up very well and really made me feel it. Just a very effective set piece, even if some other pieces of the episode didn't work. And I should also say the sequence with Leland getting stuck in the eye was super, super interesting, and I'm curious to see where that goes, though I hope it's not yet another storyline of like someone's been infected with something, because you've already seen that twice this season, once with Tilly and once with Arium, so I hope it's like Leland's dead or infected with like a disease or something like that, as opposed to like Leland's now being controlled by Control, because that just is getting repetitive. So again, another thing that I'm cautiously optimistic about. But that scene in particular was super gruesome, and I thought was kind of cool because I literally gasped at the screen. Might be too gruesome for some people who are watching with kids or something like that, but for me, I thought it was kind of a cool and shocking moment. So again, pinning it, but the moment itself played well for me personally. And then we get the reveal that Burnham's mom is the Red Angel, which I already talked at length about at the top of the episode, so I won't go into it here. And that's it for this episode. Like I said, mixed bag, talking it through. I guess I'm really kind of settling on, I really liked a lot of the small character stuff, and the stuff that I didn't like, I feel like I kind of could go either way. If the rest of the season pays it off well and makes it work for me, I could totally be like, all right, you know what, this all works. I'm down for it. If it doesn't pay off well, then it's going to kind of retroactively make this episode worse. Probably the rest of the season too, but this episode specifically, I think will kind of be determined by what happens to the rest of the season. Because there are other episodes of the season that I feel like I'll like, regardless of whatever the payoff is, like New Eden or the Sphere episode and a few other ones. Like I feel like the Red Angel plot is in there, but doesn't necessarily get ruined by the fact if the Red Angel plot kind of whimpers out. And the only thing I out and out like felt uncomfortable by was the punching of Leland and the LGBT stuff. From where I'm coming from, it may not bother you if that's not something you're sort of sensitive to, but as someone who's part of the LGBT community, not the worst thing in the world. I don't hate it. It's not overtly offensive to me. It's just kind of like, okay, all right, you're gonna go down that road again, fine. It's not like it's wrong. It's just kind of like, seen it before and it kind of is not great. My overall thoughts on this episode was like tepidly positive. I didn't hate it, but I really don't love it either. I'm not over the moon about it. I'm just kind of like, yeah, it was fine, and I need to see where it pays off. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you liked my review. If you liked it, please give my channel a subscribe, or consider giving to my Patreon if you're already subscribed. And check out that video I did on Star Trek and bisexuality if you're interested. And until next time, live long and prosper.